realization suddenly dawned on Kakashi. He had quickly understood Kakuzu's immortality. But before he could react, the Keaton mask on the back opened its mouth and fired a wave of fire at him. Moving over to the left, he pivoted and leapt in the air, but Kakuzu had already turned around and Kakashi's feet planted themselves into his face. Leaping off his face, he backflipped acrobatically and landed gracefully on his feet 3 times on his Sharingan, spinning wildly as it took in his opponent. He has 5 hearts, 1 with each element, so that's why when I pierced him with the Rikiri he was still alive, he had 4 hearts left to go. Kakashi mused to himself. Each heart allows him to use an element, which must be why he was talking about having to take mine as well. He knew already that in battle he'd end up losing at least one, so by taking mine, he would be back to his stock 5. What I bet he didn't figure out was that I'd decipher him so quickly, which I probably wouldn't have had he not clued me in, plus with the 2 years of training in the seal, I've developed quite a bit as well. Kakashi thought. Kakuzu caught Kakashi's piercing Sharingan gaze and laughed. You've deciphered mine already? Now I realize why they call you the genius of Konoha. It doesn't matter, knowing how to defeat me and having the tools necessary to defeat me are 2 different things. Did your Sharingan show you this? Kakuzu asked before clasping his fingers into the ram seal. The masks on his back exploded outward, taking a corporeal body of their own. Each mask formed a body that was connected to their location on Kakuzu's back with black strings. This is bad. Kakashi thought. You're doomed, Haddock-san. Not only do these masks have chakra, but they can use that element to their fullest, as well as I. You might think this is bad, but not so bad seeing as they are connected. Not necessarily. Kakuzu explained, releasing the strings to the masks, allowing them to move freely. You know what your problem is, Kakuzu? Kakashi asked. Kakuzu's eyes went wide with surprise. You talk a lot. Kakashi replied, summoning up another fistful of lightning as he streaked past Kakuzu and was ready to pierce the suit and heart. Kakashi felt his right hand go numb on contact, his knuckles cracking and bruising after the blow. What the hell? Kakashi muttered and realized something. The masks had been switched with Kawarimi. Instead of using the very effective lightning against water, it had ended up being swapped with the earth, the element lightning was weak against. Somehow the mask had taken up the properties of stone, and the lightning chakra not only backfired against Kakashi, but he headed up his hand in the process. Falling to his knees, he looked up to see the Kaiten and Futon masks next to each other. Oh. Kakashi whispered. There was a blast of fire followed by a howl of wind. Kakashi knew he was about to die. The Sandaime, 3rd fire shadow of Konoha, had many regrets. Most involved Naruto, some involved allowing Minato to die instead of him 12 years ago. Konoha had flourished under the young Namakas, and a loss of courage allowed Minato to slip away into the night, a baby Naruto in his hands. Konoha hadn't flourished under an old Hokage whose mind had been slipping, as well as his control over the very land he ruled. He had become a puppet figure, while Danzo and the High Shinobi Council pulled strings in the background, and the Uchiha had been slaughtered, and Naruto's innocence had been robbed. So many mistakes and regrets weighed heavily on his old aching bones. But here, he would make up for it, no matter what. A sense of foreboding told him he would die here and leaving Asuma and Konohamaru behind. It hurt almost enough to bring tears to Kami no Shinobi's eyes. But he had to do this, he had to make up for his mistakes. He had to fight this Akatsuki, an organization so evil it threatened Konoha, his home. Akatsuki threatened Naruto's existence, Konohamaru's existence, it threatened the world's existence, and for that Sarutobi would lay his life down with a steely glint in his eyes. Sandaime-sama, there's an Akatsuki member 100 meters up ahead, he's in the sky on some sort of chakra-guided bird. He's fighting against what looks like the Kazukige's son. Hiashi informed him. Hi, thank you Hiashi, I'll take care of him. Sarutobi Hiruzen announced, moving forward to attack the Akatsuki members until an explosion rocked them backwards, the sand exploding underneath them and sending them tumbling back. You shouldn't have come, Sarutobi-sensei. A voice hissed out and Sarutobi froze, recognizing the voice immediately. It was the voice of his most wayward student, someone he hadn't seen in years, Orochimaru. Orochimaru, what are you doing here interfering? Sarutobi asked. I've come to ensure your death. Orochimaru replied, his tongue rolling around his lips. Hiashi, take care of that other Akatsuki member, I'll deal with one of my past mistakes. Sarutobi said regretfully, never taking his eyes off Orochimaru. Sandaime-sama. Hiashi replied, sprinting away from the two, and the Byakugan activated. So old monkey, are you prepared to die? Orochimaru asked. What do you really want, Orochimaru? Sarutobi asked softly, slowly taking off his tan cloak, revealing the battle attire underneath. So you came prepared to battle. And die. It seems no harm in telling you of my plans, sensei. I plan to kill you and then destroy Konoha. Orochimaru announced, letting out a small laugh. You're still immature and hurt that you were not chosen to be the Indama Hokage. This is why you were not chosen, yet since you chose to threaten our peaceful village, it is only fitting that I defend it from evildoers like you. Sarutobi replied. You will not win this battle, old monkey. Perhaps, but neither will you. Sarutobi responded. The two cage-level shinobi charged at each other, fist cocked back. The next battle had begun. Naruto's body lifted itself up on its own accord, three tails of chakra stemming from behind him, his eyes ruby red and feral, his black whisker lines darkened, his spiky blonde hair coarse and thicker. Naruto's mouth opened and roared in agony, his body hunching over as his skin began to sizzle and burn, coming off him in chunks. A small shroud began floating into existence from the third tail, and Naruto's flesh came off his face, his blood bubbled around him and rose, forming a black sphere in which contained him. Kisame had just managed to get up, though he too was in a fatal condition. The Kiji no Hime Rasengan had caught cleanly in its blast circumference, even if it hadn't been a complete attack. The lightning chakra had shot outwards and ripped off a chunk of his upper torso, taking his right arm with it. The right side of his face had been sheared off, blinding him completely as both eyes had been destroyed in the blast. Unable to see, Kisame stumbled about, trying to escape away from the blonde who had done so much damage. It wasn't supposed to go down like this. The Kyuubi's vessel was supposed to be blind and weak. Yet somehow Naruto had acquired a Sharingan in both eyes, was older and more trained than he should be. His strength was way beyond what a supposed 12-year-old should be at. Naruto was an A-ranked level shinobi without the Kyuubi, with it, well Kisame wasn't sure what exactly could stop him short of Uchiha Madara. Speaking of the Uchiha, Itachi had been the one to give the information. Had Itachi double-crossed them? Where are Shishui's eyes? Madara demanded, looking at the stoic 15-year-old with contempt. They had been lost in the battle against the Uchiha, for that I apologized to Madara-san. Itachi apologized. You know this sets our organization's goals back. Danzo wanted those eyes, the bargain was the Kyuubi. Now we must bargain for something else. Madara snapped irately. I have already settled that with Danzo, I gave him several sets including my father's. Itachi explained apathetically. Your father's eyes are worthless, all he was able to do was powerful with them. Shishui had the eyes, he could control people's thoughts, and those were the eyes Danzo needed. Why did you give him several sets of eyes? He will most likely try to use the Izanagi, which is forbidden even to us. Madara snapped. Madara-san, Danzo is a frailer man, with frailer eyes. Giving him the Shishui's eyes would have been stupid, at least he's satisfied for now. He is blind and weak with no chance of being a ninja. It seems you have a better deal this way. Itachi explained coldly. Madara slapped Itachi hard in the face. I suggest for the love of your life, you should never take that tone with me again. Madara threatened dangerously. Before either could move or speak, Madara's face was on fire with black flames. And I suggest for your love of life and your eyes that you never do that again. Itachi warned coldly. Madara dropped to the ground and tried to get rid of the fire and found it was gone. I think I understand Itachi-san just fine. Madara replied, getting to his feet shakily. Had Itachi betrayed them all this time? Before he could do too much he felt the air pulsate with power. He tried to escape but fell to his knees, exhausted and most likely fatally wounded. Normally he had his chakra and Samehada to rejuvenate him, but both were gone. Naruto stood in front of him, his body at least. Kyuubi was doing all the driving. Naruto was on all fours, his skin ruby red and darkened. His green eyes were gone and replaced with wide orbs of light. His mouth enlarged like that of a wolf and light began to build up in his mouth. A skeletal frame was surrounding his body as some sort of defense. 6 tails whipped back and forth. What the? Kisame asked fearfully. Naruto looked at him dispassionately, bright holes burning away where his eyes used to be. The light in his mouth built and Naruto reared his head back before bringing it forth sending a destructive beam of light at Kisame. Kisame was no more. Neither was Naruto. Chapter 15. The Lost Jinchuriki. Never in his life had Kisame been this scared. He was shaking, his muscles trembling as he attempted to force his chakra into healing his eye so he could see. His visibility was limited now, all he could see was a fuzzy figure in front of him, with 6 tail-like appendages thrashing about, and a foul chakra suffocating him. His vision began clearing, and it was immediately fuzzy again, as a bright light came out of his opponent's mouth. He reared his head back and when it came forward Kisame knew he was going to die. A bright blast of white-hot chakra came bursting from the Chunin's mouth and collided into him. He couldn't feel much, most of his nerves had been fried from the Kyuubi's vessel's last attack, but he felt a pressure on his chest as demonic Yokai burned into him and he could smell his flesh sizzling and then he was swallowed whole by a furious wave of destructive energy until nothing remained. 6 tails thrashed angrily, blowing back sand in a flurry, completely unaffecting the beast. A smile broke out of the maw that was supposed to be its mouth as light continued to build in the beast's eyes, then dissipated, leaving a fox-looking humanoid with blood-red Sharingan eyes, tomes spinning in a continuous circle. Jagged teeth gleamed with saliva as Kyuubi's blood-red eyes peered out, looking for the next target. The Kyuubi stood there in all its glory, and the tail stretched out before it hurtled forward, spotting familiar figures in the distance. It saw the one its vessel held dear, the one he called Kakashi-san. He was bent on the ground on one knee, and one of the Akatsuki members was about to unleash a powerful Kafutan attack through a pair of standalone masks marked Infuten. The Kyuubi moved gracefully, leaping through the air, its tails propelling him forward. It sent a wave of chakra in the form of a hand towards the Akatsuki agent, catching him by surprise as it gripped his throat tightly and began squeezing the life out of him. These were the people who were hunting it and its vessel. The Kyuubi roared and blasted another beam of pure energy at the Akatsuki agent, ready to decapitate him, but black velvety ropes burst free from the agent's body and sent him flying away. The Kyuubi swiveled around to look at the man they called Hada Kakashi, or better known as Sharingan no Kakashi. Its blood-red eyes looked menacingly at the spiky-haired leaf. "Are you in Naruto?" Kakashi asked worriedly. "He's not home. I suggest you run now." Kyuubi warned and Kakashi's eyes widened. He must have thought the seal's broken. If it had, I'd be using all 9 tails and I'd be in my former body, not this half-assed mimicry, Kyuubi thought. Kakashi froze in fear, knowing that the beast in front of him was not Naruto, but the Kyuubi no Yoko. Did the seal break? Did Naruto tear the seal? Kakashi asked hesitantly, not wanting to anger one of the most powerful beings in existence and the very thing that killed his sensei. Obviously not. Kyuubi scoffed. Else I'd be a few hundred feet tall with 9 tails thrashing about destroying everything. Kyuubi sneered, looking down at the elite, analyzing him with blood-red eyes. Kakashi lowered his gaze and felt the hot breath of the Kyuubi spreading over him like an unwelcome blanket, the foul chakra making his breath catch in his throat and sweat beating down his back. "Why did you save me?" Kakashi then asked, his muscles tense and ready to spring into action at any point in time. "Because of Naruto-kun. You have kept your promise and honored your sensei well. While I couldn't care about either of the blonde monkeys, for your kindness, my life has been easier in a sense. Do not look further into it than that, Haddock. When Naruto does return to this body, maintain what you are doing. Before I go, I will give you a parting gift." Kyuubi offered. "You don't have to, you've spared me already." Kakashi replied warily. "Be quiet and do not test my patience. I am only doing this because it will benefit Naruto in the long run, the fact that it will benefit you is not important to me. But I warn you now, this will hurt, a lot in fact, so I do get a kick out of this." Kyuubi said mockingly, an unbefitting grin coming from its maw. "What are you going to do?" Kakashi asked cautiously. "I'm going to imbue you with blood, the same blood that runs in Naruto's veins." Kyuubi replied honestly. "Why? For what purpose?" Kakashi asked, his eyes rising as he looked at the Kyuubi. Kyuubi's hot breath continued enveloping him. "He sees you as his brother, it's only fit to make it official. By having Naruto's blood in your veins, you'll gain more than you want to know." Kyuubi warned. "Alright, I guess I don't have a choice but to do as you say." Kakashi relented, breathing slowly as he watched a blood-colored needle come out from the Kyuubi or better yet Naruto's index finger. The needle pricked into his arm and Kakashi screamed as it felt like flames consumed him whole. It was like Itachi set him aflame with the Amaterasu. It burned agonizingly slow and his throat was hoarse from screaming, his eyes were itching and burning and he wanted to claw them out with his bare hands. His hands instinctively moved up to claw at his eyes, but the Kyuubi gripped him. "Don't move, it's over." It warned and suddenly the pain was gone. Kakashi dropped to his knees and grabbed a kunai. He wasn't sure if he was going to attack Kyuubi or himself yet. "Look at your eyes." Kyuubi commanded roughly. There were some side effects. Kakashi flipped the kunai on its side so it reflected his face and saw his eyes. They were both light brown, just like his normal eyes, just like his father's. "My Sharingan. It's gone." Kakashi cried out hoarsely. "Is it?" Kyuubi asked, grinning again, and Kakashi was sure he'd piss himself if he grinned again. Focusing chakra to his eyes he almost choked as he saw the brown mutate into blood red with 3 times in each eye. Kakashi had Sharingan in both eyes. "Ah, so now you see." Kyuubi mocked looking down at the stunned man with Naruto's Sharingan eyes. These eyes, these hateful eyes will be with you forever Sharingan no Kakashi. You just as Naruto and Sasuke, Itachi and Madara, will be forever enslaved to the power of the Sharingan. Naruto's blood runs through you as well, you will feel the difference as his genes merge with yours. Kyuubi continued. "What differences?" Kakashi asked numbly. "I can't make it too easy for you monkey. Go find out, I don't have much time to wreak havoc." Kyuubi pointed out and flung himself forward again. The Akatsuki agent that had fled earlier stood and waited for the Kyuubi and as the Kyuubi was about to land in front of Kakuzu when jet black ropes exploded from the ground and wrapped themselves around the Kyuubi to suffocate it. "Got you." Kakuzu sneered as a wave of ropes covered the Kyuubi entirely. Bikuzu stood there grinning, manipulating the black inky strings through the sand mentally and with chakra. His mask had crawled back into his back, though his lightning mask had been destroyed earlier by Kakashi's Rikiri. He would have Kakashi's heart. Right after he subdued the Kyuubi. Clenching the Kyuubi between the inky ropes, he smirked. Suddenly the binds that held the Kyuubi spontaneously combusted and caught on fire. The Kyuubi roared and the bonds melted underneath the Kyuubi's rage. "Stupid human, you think that's enough to stop me?" it roared, copy wheel eyes bearing down on Kakuzu. Kakuzu suddenly realized he was dealing with the Kyuubi and not its vessel. "Oh shit," he said nervously, backing up as he launched another wave of black velvety strings to keep the Kyuubi away. Kyuubi laughed and bit into the strings, ripping them into pieces, and was about to leap into the air to pounce on Kakuzu when a scythe cut through the air into Kyuubi's neck. It was ineffective. Kyuubi swiveled its eyes and saw the silver-haired Akatsuki agent Haiden. "Big mistake." It growled out through its fanged mouth. Haiden's eyes widened, his scythe rendered ineffective by the Kyuubi. It should have taken its head off, at the least hurt him a little, but it seemed it had done nothing to him. "Haiden, run, report to the leader." Kakuzu ordered. "No, I'm not leaving you here. We're a team, even if I plan to kill you someday." Haiden snapped back, pulling his scythe back and leaping in the air to strike the Kyuubi again. Kyuubi reared its head back and brought forth a wave of fire that blasted into Haiden's chest, knocking him backwards. Kakuzu took the opportunity to run through a set of hand seals quickly and brought both hands to his mouth. "Kafuten. Kami Hikyu no Jutsu." He bellowed and funneled wind chakra into a dome in between his hands. The dome began spinning, and suddenly a blast of fire roared from the S-rank shinobi's mouth into the wind chakra and formed a large swirling dragon, shooting its way towards the Kyuubi. Its eyes easily doubled the Kyuubi as the fire dragon god continued spiraling towards the nine-tailed fox. The fire dragon was blazing hot, whitish blue in color, and had a large range that the Kyuubi wouldn't be able to avoid. Kyuubi narrowed its eyes and brought one clawed hand forward and formed a spiraling sphere in his hands, reminiscent of Naruto's Rasengan. Their sphere continued spinning, bleeding with black and red chakra, and Kyuubi moved forward and slammed the attack into the incoming fire dragon, and the attacks collided. The sphere kept spinning and spiraling, shredding through the fire dragon with ease, spraying the sky and the sands with fire, causing some of the sand to combust. Bikuzu's eyes widened as he saw his S-class reduced to nothing and let out a hollow scream as the Kyuubi had continued forward with his attack, the spiraling sphere catching his unprotected chest and grinding through the solar plexus, bone fragments shooting forward and out his back, finally exploding and knocking backwards in a spiral. He lay on the ground, bleeding out as blood rushed in the direction gravity sent it, right out of his broken chest. He could tell he lost another 2 hearts, he felt like he died twice in that attack, and as he tried to call his chakra forward, he knew it was his and masks that had been destroyed by the Kyuubi. It stalked him and hovered over his broken body, and if he didn't get the hell out of here soon, he would die, and 140 years of hard work would go to waste. He was Kakuzu of the waterfall, the man who killed the Shodai, the Nidame Mizukage and Tsuchikage. He had made millions as a bounty hunter, killing thousands of missing nin in the process. He tried crawling forward to try to salvage his last 2 hearts, and he just couldn't die here, not after everything he'd been through. "I am Senju Jozu, I am here to claim your land. Leave now and we'll spare you, fight us and no one will be spared," Jozu announced, interrupting the local celebration in the village hidden in the waterfall. "We will not surrender." Kazama Akira, the high priest of the village, replied, pulling his katana swiftly. "You mustn't fight him, father, I'll take care of this." Kakuzu offered, looking at his father grimly. "You mustn't face the Senju son, you aren't ready for that and they have that surpasses most of our skills." "I have to do this." Akira replied, sliding into an offensive stance. "Let me prove myself to you, father." Kakuzu demanded, the 15-year-old not taking no for an answer. Moving in front of his father, the legendary water user, Kakuzu leapt in front of Jozu of the Senju and pulled out a Kodachi and charged. The battle was over soon thereafter, and Jozu formed a wooden spear from his chakra and launched it in the air and pierced Kakuzu in the heart and he fell over onto his stomach. As he laid there dying, the world faded to black and he expired. Somehow he awoke much later. He was alive and somehow stronger. What happened? He managed to mutter out through cracked lips. "Your father sacrificed himself, he gave you his heart." Jozu managed to escape afterwards and took his clansmen with him. They promised to return and bring more with them. His mother Kazama Kiri told him as she sobbed and cried over his prone form. "He gave me his heart?" Kakuzu asked, confused. "Yes, Jozu had killed you and your father used his medical to give you his heart," Kiri told him sadly. "When Jozu returns, I will avenge Tusan and I will take Senju's heart in return. I will cut off the rest of their heads and collect the bounty from the Uchiha, this I promise," Kakuzu assured his grieving mother. Kakuzu coughed up blood and struggled to get up. Black blood spewed from his lips and onto the sand. "Back up, Kyuubi." A voice called out, and the Kyuubi swiveled its eyes to see a red-haired puppet in tattered clothes holding out the body of Enyujito. A long steel tail was protruding through her stomach. Knowing puppet users loved poisoned, Kyuubi now knew the reason for her death. "I suggest you let her go this instant." Kyuubi growled out. "Only if you surrender to us." The red-hair puppet bargained. "Let her go, now." Kyuubi roared out. "Surrender." The Akatsuki agent repeated. Kyuubi glared and disappeared in a flash, his mouth opening and catching the surprised Akatsuki agent by the throat, clenching down hard and ripping his head clean off. Smashing the wooden head between his teeth and spitting it out, the Kyuubi walked over to the fallen Yujito and looked at her sadly, almost longingly. "Not just yet, Nibi-chan, not yet." Kyuubi stated. Hayden rushed to jump in when he was interrupted by Uchiha Itachi grabbing him and slamming him back down. "We need to go now." Itachi ordered, looking at Kakuzu and Hayden. "I will kill that. I will show him that Jashin destroys his enemies, the power of my religion." Hayden screamed, holding his scythe in front of him. "Do not let your anger blind you into believing you can defeat the Kyuubi, especially when it is seething with anger. Your partner Kakuzu is in no condition to fight and you aren't in the best shape. I am almost out of chakra and the Kyuubi killed Kisame and Sasori and Deidara has yet to defeat the Ichibi. We must regroup and try again." Itachi said calmly. "No. Jashin must receive his offerings today, the blood of the non-believers must be spilled." Uchiha Itachi. Hayden shrieked out, raising his scythe to his lips. "What are you doing?" Itachi demanded. "Giving my god what he deserves." Hayden replied, licking the blood on the blade clean before deftly stabbing himself on the foot and watching in amusement as blood seeped from his foot as he formed a circle in the sand. Kyuubi laid Yujito down to the ground and held a clawed hand over her chest. "You cannot die yet, Nibi," Kyuubi stated, and his hand glowed pitch black and slowly the organs pierced by Sasori's tail began to regenerate. The pierced flesh began stitching itself back up and her fatal wound was healed with nothing but a slight scar left in its place. Black flames began seeping from her pores, covering her whole body. Hayden's skin turned black with a white skeletal outline, his normally purple eyes turned black, and he finished a star on the inside of the circle. "Respect my god." Hayden screamed and grabbed a kunai. "Chidori." Sasuke screamed, ramming Hayden in the back with a lightning-filled fist. Sasuke's first burst through Hayden's chest, and the Jashinist began laughing insanely before ripping himself free and clubbing Sasuke hard across the face, sending him backwards. Suddenly the Kyuubi roared in rage as a hole appeared right through his left side. The hole tore through the lung all the way into the back. The Kyuubi fell flat on his face into the sand and the skeletal frame disappeared and the 6 tails began receding one by one. The two groups watched in amazement as the Kyuubi slowly reverted back into a Naruto, whose skin had been burned off in the process of turning into the 6-tailed beast. Naruto slowly opened his eyes, blood-red spheres peering into his best friend Sasuke. "God, you always did shit up." Naruto commented as Sasuke rushed to his side. "What happened? Why did you receive the wound I gave Hayden?" Sasuke demanded. "Aka, he almost sliced me in half. He must rely on that circle he's standing on, he must have swallowed my blood that was on the side, and that's what he must do. If he swallows the enemy's blood, the enemy receives whatever damage is done to him, and since he's immortal, he can live through that." Naruto whispered out. "How do we stop it from hurting you?" Sasuke asked frantically. "Let him outside the cursed circle, stupid." Naruto croaked out, blood spewing from his lips. His head turned slightly and his eyes dulled. "Naruto!" Sasuke bellowed. Somehow, in some twisted irony, he had done what Itachi had done. He had killed his closest friend. Only he hadn't meant to. Tears slid down his cheeks and he felt hot seething rage at the Akatsuki for having put them through this. He ignored Hayden's taunts and laughter and continued sobbing out. "Naruto. We must go now." Itachi demanded crossly, his Sharingan morphing into twin 3-sided pinwheels. "What's the rush, we got the brats where we want them." Hayden replied. "I'm leaving, you can choose to stay." Itachi replied, his voice low and dangerous. Sasuke fell to his knees, tears spilling down his cheeks. Bending over he picked up Kakuzu off the sand and disappeared in a swirl of black flames after giving his brother one last final glance. Sasuke hovered over Naruto's body, tears spilling down onto Naruto's frame. Sasuke didn't notice that Sasori's headless body had stood up on its own accord and its tail slid through the sand before rising up, ready to attack Sasuke and pierce him like he did to Yujito. The tail whizzed by ready to catch the Uchiha off guard. Whether by instinct or by shinobi prowess, the Uchiha survivor noticed and grabbed the metal tail, yanking it forward and bringing Sasori's headless puppet body with it. As the body was yanked forward, Sasuke pulled his leg back and then brought it forward in a devastating kick to the puppet user's heart, shattering it instantly and spraying blood everywhere. As Sasori's eyes widened in surprise, the Redeed's only regret before dying was that his art had been destroyed in a bang, like Tadara's. The last thing he saw was a burst of black flames. "Sasuke, your eyes." A voice called out, breaking Sasuke out of his concentration. Sasuke looked over at his sensei Kakashi. "I know, I used the Manjikyu." Sasuke replied curtly. "It's different. It's not Itachi's Manjikyu." Kakashi replied. Sasuke looked confused. "Come to me again when you have eyes like mine. Run, foolish little brother, despise me surviving in such a pathetic way, hate me and come to me again when you have the same eyes as me." For an Uchiha to achieve the level of Manjikyu Sharingan, one must kill his closest friend. Suddenly he realized it. Gone was Itachi's Manjikyu Sharingan, replaced by his own kaleidoscope. Pulling out a kunai and holding it to his face, he almost sobbed. Instead of Itachi's three-sided pinwheels, there was an 8-pointed star in a sea of red. The gift, the price he had paid for killing his best friend. "Naruto. Your blood will be for Jashin." Hayden cried out, interrupting his sobs. "Your blood will be for Naruto. I will avenge his death." Sasuke replied, sliding into his offensive stance. 60-armed shinobi in Anbu-like gear were kneeled in front of him, waiting for his signal. A man hobbled out with a cane, half of his face hidden by white bandages with tufts of hair poking out and an axe-like scar on his chin. "Nah, I have a mission for you. The Raikage has sent his Jinchuriki and his team to destroy Konoha. You are to stop them at all costs. Odin-sama has sent out a few teams of his Anbu as well, but they will be too weak to stop the Hachibi's vessel. Assist them and confront the ninja directly. That is why you stand in front of me in Anbu gear. You are to appear as one of their ninja and not one of mine. Hurry now and do not let lightning destroy the tree that is Konoha. Once the tree is destroyed, so are its roots, remember that." Giving the signal, 40 of the ninja disappeared in a flash and then there were 20 remaining. "Those that remain, should the others fail and the Hachibi destroy Konoha, your assignment is to assassinate the Godame, thus allowing me to become Rakudame." Danzu ordered and the other 20 disappeared in a flash. The pieces were sliding into place. He would be a fool to let his most likely last chance slip between his fingers like his fingers. Hobbling out of the Central Forces room, he managed to make it to his secret private office that not even one knew about. Sitting down at his seat, he placed his palms together and contemplated Sarutobi's final words to him. "Good afternoon, old friend." Sarutobi called out, walking into his hidden office. Danzo's eyes widened and clutched a kunai, ready to slice his throat until he saw it was the recently red Red Hokage. "How do you know where this office was? No one should know." Danzu demanded. Sarutobi smiled wearily. "I have always known where you hide it, rat." Sarutobi replied. "Yes, I still remember us in Anbu. I was monkey of course. Since I've become a Hokage, you have undermined me at every turn, friend, when I've done nothing to warrant such hostility." Sarutobi spoke with such calamity that it unnerved Danzo. "I have not meant to undermine you, Sandaime-sama, I just have Konoha's best interest at heart." Danzu replied, bowing low to the third fire shadow of Konoha. "There is no need for such formalities, Danzo-kun. This will be the last time we speak, after all, you know you could always call me Hiruzen." Sarutobi responded, pulling out his pipe and motioning for Danzo to give him permission. Danzu nodded and Sarutobi lit his pipe, blowing out a small cloud of smoke. "Do you foresee yourself dying, or are you here to kill me now?" Danzu asked, trying to see what he had to prepare himself for. "Do you feel endangered, Danzo?" "Like I said, I have always known where you hide, had I chosen to, I could have crushed you a long time ago and spared the headache you'd become." Sarutobi stated, blowing out another cloud of smoke. His face was apathetic, completely shinobi-like and emotionless, yet Danzo could feel an underlying message, a sense of disappointment in Sarutobi's words that he was trying to understand. "But I have spared you, all this time, because you did have Konoha's best interest at heart, even when it cost a leaf lots of lives for your defiance. Your morale and consciousness have deteriorated so much, and it's claimed the lives of the Uchiha, the childhood of Uzumaki Naruto, and so many others." Sarutobi continued. "To be frank, Hiruzen, it was not my defiance that cost so many their lives, but it was your weakness, your refusal to acknowledge the threats that sometimes are within our own village." Danzo snapped, looking at Hiruzen through one onyx-colored eye. "You have changed from the god of shinobi to a senile old puppet whose peace-loving beliefs have destroyed the military prowess of Konoha." Danzo spat out. Sarutobi blew another cloud of smoke. "Those peace-loving beliefs were inherited from the Shadame and the Nidame when I took over their mantle. Those peace-loving beliefs are what allowed Konoha to strive and become the strongest of the 5 nations, and so it has remained. Those beliefs are what keep you alive now, or else you would be crushed under fist." Sarutobi replied dangerously, his voice low and grave. "I am alive simply because you need me, or else you wouldn't have freed me from prison, don't you, Sarutobi?" Danzu said snidely, smirking. "Someone has to do what my root forces do. We do the horrible things your shinobi do not have the gall to do." Perhaps, but remember this, I did not spare Koharu and Homura. I will not return from this trip to Sunagakure, but remember this Danzo-kun, leave Naruto and Sasuke alone. Hiruzen warned, an unreadable look passing through his face. They are after me, we will eventually fight in battle. Danzo confessed honestly. You being around is the only thing that stops the Uzumaki and the Uchiha from taking revenge. They will kill you, you must know that. Hiruzen replied. I may be as old as you Hiruzen, but even I have tricks up my sleeve. Danzo assured me casually. Naruto will be even stronger than the fourth, he is nearly at his level now. He will be legendary, almost as famous as the Rakuto Sennin. Sasuke is going to pass Itachi easily, and if you spite him and blacken his heart anymore, he will be the next Uchiha Madara. Not to mention Kakashi is almost a father figure for them, he will destroy you if you even breathe their name. He isn't our most feared for any reason, and he could smell you out if he wanted to, so I suggest you leave them all alone. But knowing you, you will not, and so in the afterlife I will see you, rival. Sarutobi answered, bidding his closest friend goodbye. Was there ever any good times between us? Danzo asked. Sarutobi was quiet for a second. Of course there was, we're best friends after all. He replied, never looking back and disappearing out of there. Danzo frowned slightly. He felt somewhat displeased at the fact he would not obey Sarutobi's last wishes. He would disgrace Sarutobi's name and betray them because Konoha required it. Namikaze Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke needed to die. Because Konoha had demanded it. The Ashi was having a hard time defending against Madara, the S-class from Iowa. They had the ability to form clay and mix it with chakra to have explosive results. Not to mention with a psychotic Jinchuriki next to him trying to kill him while he defended him from Madara wasn't helping either. Hyuga Heihachi was retired and it showed, his chakra pool was less than expendable, and his Jyoken wasn't flawless like it used to be. This is my art, yeah. Madara called out, launching a handful of spiders at Heihachi. A wave of sand was summoned to crush a few, but a few still fell towards them. Sighing in exhaustion, the Hyuga clan leader glowed blue as he charged in and began striking the falling spiders, deactivating by striking at specific points in the spider's chest. A spider dropped next to him, and he instinctively spun around as he released a katen blowing the spider upwards as it exploded. You're not too bad, yeah. But you're too old to keep up with me, just give up and I'll make your death an art. Madara demanded, forming a white bird that he leapt on and continued his long-range assault. Shuriken. Gaara spat out as the 13-year-old launched a shuriken made of sand at Madara, who would maneuver the bird away from the shuriken. The Ashi rushed over to Gaara who was still firing away. Alright kid, you're up. Either release the Ichibi and destroy that bastard or throw me up on top of his bird and I can attack him from there. Heihachi advised. I do not listen to you, I will prove my existence by killing you both. Gaara spat, his teal eyes wide as he summoned up a wave of sand to drown Heihachi. Acting instinctively, Heihachi released a katen that blew Gaara back despite his ultimate defense. Stop that now. Heihachi barked out. He will kill us if we don't team up. I will kill you both. Gaara screamed out, summoning a wave of sand and launching it at Heihachi who ducked out of the way. It is not my duty to protect you, Jinchuriki. Your existence is an abomination to life itself. If you continue this I will walk away and leave you to die. Heihachi warned. Shut up, you're just like all of them. You will die like all of them. Gaara threatened. Suddenly a holographic image appeared in the sand, reflecting a taller man with spiky hair and eyes with inner rings. Madara. The voice boomed. The Ashi stepped away from the holographic image while Gaara summoned a wave of sand at it. Before it got close, a force repelled the sand back at Gaara who looked confused. Madara landed the bird in front of the image and knelt on one knee. Yes, Leader Sama. Retreat and return to base. There is too much ruckus and only subtleness could help us on this occasion. You will return for the vessel of the Ichibi later. The images ordered. Hi. I will take my leave now, Leader Sama. Madara replied and hopped back onto the bird. I will see you later Ichibi-chan, yay. Next time I will paint Sunagakure with my art, consider yourself lucky. Before Heihachi and Gaara could move the bird leapt into the air, hovered and then flew off. What the hell? Heihachi asked and turned towards Gaara. Gaara had a murderous look on his face. I will prove my existence, mother demands your blood. Gaara roared out. Four shinobi sped up as fast as they could through the rain, chakra burning under their feet as they maintained balance atop the lake they were running on, passing the outskirts of Omegakure. It seemed as if the rain would never cease, never let up and swallow the foreign Kumo ninja underneath the waves of water. Leaping into the air, water sprayed their hair and came down their face like sweat. Landing onto the lake with stealth only experienced shinobi could muster, they took off again in another leap. Hours later the rain had stopped and they had found a small clearing of trees they could rest and avoid the rain under. Seeing a vast array of trees up ahead, the four shinobi stopped and took cover under some trees. All these trees, I think we've entered Hai no Kuni. One of the ninjas spoke up. It was a younger, dark-skinned male who spoke first. His three companions looked at him and nodded in agreement. It would appear so, Captain Obvious. A sarcastic female voice spoke out. It belonged to the second-in-command and future Samui. She was 17, while her other two companions were 16, and twin siblings at that. The twins were nearly identical, though one was female and the other was male. Both shared dark skin and dark hair and bickered constantly, much to Samui's irritation. Samui herself was tall, taller than most females under the Raikage's rule. To complement her height, she had long, slender legs and large breasts she tried to conceal with no avail. Her stomach was flat and toned, her eyes were honey-colored, standing out in comparison to her pale skin and blonde hair. "Did you want to rest?" Samui called out to her Taichu. "Yay, let's stop here. We're just outside Konoha, nothing to fear." The Jinchuriki of the Hachibi replied. The vessel for the eight-tailed ram was an odd one indeed. The brother of the Raikage was tall and dark-skinned like a lot in Kumo, with blonde hair and odd tattoos on his cheeks, and carried 7 swords. "Hi." Samui agreed. "Destruction will come tomorrow, Konoha will weep in sorrow." Hachibi rhymed, with all seriousness in his voice. "Fuck, that hurt." Naruto growled out, scaring a teary-eyed Sasuke. "You're alive." Sasuke cried out, standing up and looking at Naruto with unshed tears in his eyes. "No shit, how did you deduce that one, genius? Was it my ability to speak or the added sarcasm?" Naruto asked, groaning as he stood up. Flexing his muscles, he looked down at the spot where the oozing hole should have been. There was none, and the muscles and skin had grown together and regenerated completely thanks to Kyuubi's influence. "You died earlier, I killed you, and your heart didn't beat," Sasuke announced, and Naruto frowned. "Are you sure?" Naruto asked, stretching his limbs. "Are you alright? God, I thought you were dead." Kakashi said, using the Shunshin to appear in front of Naruto. "I don't think I died." Naruto said, cocking his head to the side. "You did, I even gained the Manjikyu Sharingan, my Manjikyu Sharingan out of it." Sasuke continued, his voice hysterical. "You got a new Manjikyu, cool, let me see." Naruto demanded, walking up to Sasuke and getting in his face, peering at the raven-haired Uchiha with a fox-like look to him. "Get out of my face, Naruto. I'm not a circus animal." Sasuke grunted, before flaring his chakra and his black eyes shifted from black to red and black, with an 8-pointed star. "That is so cool. I wonder what my Manjikyu will look like," Naruto said, poking Sasuke in the forehead, before looking over at Kakashi. "Do you have your eyes over?" he asked. Kakashi gave him a blank look before realizing what he was talking about. "No, it's not," Kakashi stated, then after seeing Naruto's confused look, he elaborated. "When you let the Kyuubi out, it injected me with your DNA. It told me I could now use the Sharingan in both eyes because I shared your blood and your genes. It said there would be some side effects and I'd notice it, but I haven't yet. We need to go back to Konoha soon and I need to research what it's done to me," Kakashi pointed out. Naruto nodded and felt a pair of arms around his neck. "Thanks for saving me," a familiar voice said, and the hair on his neck stood on end. "Vegito-chan?" Naruto asked dumbly. "I thought you died." "I watched you die," he mumbled. "Same could be said about you, Naruto-kun," Yujito said quietly. "You saved me though, if that's what you're wondering," she said, and then released him and he turned around and got a good look at her. She had the same honey brown eyes he remembered, the same blonde hair and a braided ponytail. She had the same silky skin as if woven by God himself, smooth to the touch, and he distractedly brought a hand to her face to lazily trace her features with his callous digits. She smiled against his touch and pulled him in for a kiss, pressing her lips against his, and he knew without a doubt that he loved Den Yujito. Kissing her again, he pulled back as Kakashi placed his hand on his shoulder. "There's time for that later, right now there's 2 other battles going on," Kakashi stated and pointed out east. Naruto looked in the direction and saw one battle with sand flying all across the scene, waves of it coming up from the sand floor trying to drown the other opponent. In the other battle, Naruto immediately recognized one of the fighters. It was the Sandaime, who was looking weary and aged as he ducked a long sword that was coming from the other man's mouth. "What the hell?" Naruto asked. "That's Sandaime Sama taking on Orochimaru, one of the Sannin," Kakashi said gravely. "Orochimaru, I've heard of the name, also known as the Hibi Sennin, right?" Sasuke asked. "Yes, he, Tsunade, and Jiraiya formed a group of the Densetsu no Sannin, the legendary 3 ninja a long time ago. Their skills are equal and on par with each other. Orochimaru was the most infamous of them all for his betrayal of Konoha. As you personally know, Naruto, they are hermits who left Konoha to do as they pleased. Only Jiraiya returned, Tsunade was still abroad, and Orochimaru became a Orochimaru left, upset that he didn't become the Yondaime and was run out of Konoha once he was found to be experimenting on children, killing almost all of them. He is dangerous, an S-class trying to achieve immortality, so I suggest you tread carefully. But we must protect the Sandaime, so let's go. The faster we get him out of here the better." Kakashi announced. Hi, let's go Kaka-sensei. We should split up, Sasuke and Yujiro, help out the ally in the first battle, me and Kakashi will handle Orochimaru. Naruto stated. Hi. Sasuke said warily and gave Naruto a small nod. I'll see you later, Taichu. Don't die again. Sasuke gave Naruto and Kakashi a mock salute and Naruto and Yujiro held hands for a second before the two of them disappeared to jump into battle. Kakashi and Naruto took off, flying across the sand, and Naruto activated his Sharingan, 3 times spinning in each eye. His black cloak was tattered, so he ripped it off in mid-jump and tossed it behind him, leaving him in just a standard black-on-black shinobi uniform with a dark green vest. As they got closer, Naruto got a better look as he analyzed the scene with his Sharingan. Sandaime looked to be on his last legs, and the opponent he was facing gave Naruto the creeps. He was a taller shinobi, with disgusting pale white skin, almost paste-like white. He had long, jet black hair and golden amber eyes with a ring of purple around them. The man looked like a snake. Orochimaru slashed downwards with a large blade in his mouth and cut the Sandaime across the back of his legs, and Sarutobi fell to the sand on his knees. Orochimaru reared back and was about to decapitate him when Naruto applied chakra and disappeared in a crack, almost immediately summoning himself over to Orochimaru and taking a kunai and blocking the large blade before planting his boot in the Nukenin's stomach, kicking him backwards. Orochimaru stumbled back across the sands and Naruto took the time to look at the Sandaime. Jiji, what are you doing, the creepy snake man's kicking your ass. Naruto commented, pulling the red Hokage to his feet. Are you alright? Kakashi asked as he appeared next to them. Yes Kakashi-kun, I am fine thanks to Naruto-kun here. I am not as strong as I once was, regrettably. Sandaime said. We're here to help Jiji. Naruto offered. I know, and I thank you for that. Before we continue this fight, promise me something. Sandaime said gravely. What is it, anything old man? Naruto assured him. Forgive me. I've done a lot in my reign as Hokage, things you don't know about yet, but will later. I've always loved you as if you were my own grandson, but for the sake of the village I've allowed things and pardoned those I shouldn't have. No matter what, when you hear those things that will make you hate me, I'll understand, hate the Sandaime Hokage for all it's worth, but forgive me Sarutobi Hiruzen when you do. In my old age there's so much I regret, but if you forgive me, I'll know my death will be worth it. I will die here today in Sunagakure Naruto, it's only time, so forgive me before I do. Sandaime asked. I already have, old man. You had my forgiveness a long time ago. Naruto explained, placing a hand on the old man's shoulder. Fufu, isn't this a touching scene? Well, let's make it more touching if you don't mind. Orochimaru called out, his tongue sliding out of his mouth invasively as it wriggled about. Leave the old man alone and fight me. Naruto demanded. Orochimaru suddenly began going through some hand seals and bit his thumb before wiping the blood onto each fingertip and calling out. Kuchius. Ito Tensei. Orochimaru shrieked and slammed the bloody palm onto the ground. A resonating blast knocked the 3 of them backwards. As they struggled to get up, killer intent was leaking into the air, and as they got up they saw Orochimaru with 3 coffins standing up on end. Inside the coffin was the kanji for Ichi, Nai, Yan separately on each coffin. Even before they could deduce what that meant, there was the whizzing sound of a kunai being flung in the air. Naruto held out the kunai from earlier in front of him, and there was a streak of yellow, and suddenly Naruto found himself staring into lifeless blue eyes like his once were. A 3-pronged kunai was pressed against him, and he recognized the man he was about to fight. He should after all. It was the 4th fire shadow of Konoha, Namikaze Minato. His father. Chapter 16. Requiem of a Demon. Naruto. Minato whispered, staring down at Naruto with lifeless blue eyes. His 3-pronged kunai was bearing down on Naruto, who was using a kunai to try and push back, but found it harder than he thought. Straining his muscles, he pushed back even harder to gain leverage, but Yondaime's foot smashed into his stomach, bowling him right over and sending him crashing to the sand. Before he could even move, there was a flash of yellow, and he barely had the time to register it before the Sandaime Hokage kicked him hard across the ribs, sending him sprawling across the sands. Angered by how fast the 4th Hokage was, Naruto's eyes spun faster, the 3 commas in his eyes looking more shuriken-like and deadly. You have to anticipate his movements. See them Sharingan. He thought to himself. Moving back a step, he hurled 2 shuriken at him only to watch as the Yondaime faded from existence and used his space-time ninjutsu to appear in front of him. Bringing his arms in front of him, he blocked the incoming punch, using his arms to take the brunt of the blow. Wincing slightly, he leapt up in the air to knee his dead father in the face, only to have the Yondaime sidestep it and kick him hard across the mouth. Fallen backwards once again, the 15-year-old boy wiped the blood off his bruised lip. You're weak, much weaker than I anticipated. Namikaze Minato called out cruelly, sneering slightly. You are not fit to be called my son. Minato jeered out and tears almost sprung to Naruto's eyes. Naruto stood up to his feet and stared at the father he'd never known. "Look at you, Minato, you're Orochimaru's puppet. And you're right, I'm not your son," Naruto stated. "I have no father," Naruto added quietly. Minato's lifeless blue eyes narrowed. "What did you say?" Minato asked coldly, his eyes frozen ice chips. Naruto ignored him. "You're weak, much weaker than I anticipated," Naruto called out, repeating what his father said to him. "I should be dead by now," Naruto informed him. "Show me the depths of your power, son," Minato demanded. Naruto stood there before his hands formed the Ram seal and he drew chakra from his inner core before exploding with blue-white chakra, molding around him like an aura, completely free from the Kyuubi's taint. Naruto's Sharingan continued to spin madly before coming to a halt in a three-bladed Shuriken Manjikyu state. "I'm better than you," Naruto informed him coldly. Minato shook his head. "How can you kill what you can't see?" Minato asked. Minato hurled a three-pronged kunai at him and Naruto returned the volley with one of his kunai. "Cage Shuriken Bunshin no," Naruto called out and the kunai replicated into 100. Before the three-pronged kunai could reach Naruto, he vanished and appeared above Minato, landing in front of him. The fourth Hokage's eyes widened. Throwing a punch at Naruto, he blocked it and lightning chakra rushed to his arm. "Ryuken," Naruto shouted before uppercutting the fourth Hokage with a fistful of lightning, sending him flying up high. The long-dead Hokage crashed into the sand and got up a few seconds later laughing. "You little bastard, you stole some of mine. You obviously know the Hiraishin, and you even changed up my Shoryuken to add lightning chakra, not bad, little." The Hokage called out, sneering slightly. "That was nothing, and you haven't seen my Hiraishin. It took a while to develop, but I've surpassed you on a whole new level," Naruto replied. "Show me the depth of your power." Minato shot back, and there was a blaze of red chakra exploded from the young ex-Hokage's pores. It looked a lot similar to Kyuubi's cloak. "He almost looks like me when I use the Kyuubi's chakra," Naruto noted mentally and used his Sharingan to peer in closer. Minato crouched low on the sand as a red bubble of chakra began protruding from his rear, followed by another tail. "That is the fox's cloak." "What the hell?" Minato's nails extended and sharpened and his eyes blurred from lifeless blue to menacing red with black slits. Fangs bared, he looked ready to rip out Naruto's throat. There were another two tails emerging from it and Naruto waited in expectation for Minato to start looking like a mini Kyuubi like he did, but it never happened. As he stood there in shock, finally 9 bubble-like tails were protruding and Minato stood back on his feet. Suddenly the tails dissipated and the cloak vanished and standing there in front of Naruto was someone that didn't look like his father. This thing was utterly evil. Menacing red eyes and spiky blonde hair with red tips. A cruel smirk marred his handsome features and Naruto watched as the wound he left earlier from the Ryuken disappeared as if never there. "What are you?" Naruto dared himself to ask. "I am what I am." It spoke cryptically. "What does that even mean?" Naruto asked, surveying the area. 12 years ago, I sealed the Kyuubi into a child, my child to be exact, except in order for the process to be successful, the Kyuubi, I, had to be split into 2 halves. The Yang chakra and the Yin chakra. It explained. "I don't get it," Naruto stated warily. "The Yin chakra is sealed away into you. It encompasses Kyuubi's chakra, his power, and my massive hate. The Yang chakra was sealed away into me, that was the other half of the Kyuubi's chakra. The Kyuubi's power is infinite, immeasurable, even when divided in 2. Your body was much too young to handle the full strength of it, the darkest part of the Kyuubi, and sealed it into myself. I am Kyuubi, I am Namikaze Minato." It claimed. "There's no way that's possible." Naruto shot back. "It is puny. I am fused inside this body, and my anger is so strong and so dark, even your pathetic father Yondaime wasn't able to overcome it. But I was not able to overcome him, even now I have only managed to slow down the fatherly love he has for you. I hate you, and he loves you. Why? You're a pathetic monkey, useless. You are an ad in my eyes, a waste of life, most of you bite the dust before 70. Why do you exist? Why do you insist on defying me as a puny ninja?" Minato roared. Naruto finally understood. "I see, you've also made him weak. I might be a puny person in the face of something as old and powerful as you, but the time has come. I hated my father for the better part of 15 years, never truly understanding why he sealed the Kyuubi in me, and I still don't. But he did it to protect Konoha and resorted to being stuck with you to save me. I will honor his sacrifice, I will not let you win." Naruto called out angrily. Looking the red-eyed humanoid in the eye, Naruto added. "Atousen, I forgive you. Forgive me. You will not beat me." Minato roared. Naruto ran through a set of hand seals faster than he could blink. It sounded like an array of birds screeched as lightning chakra built in his hand and he charged forward, disappearing in a flash and reappearing in front of the Fused Hokage, and he rammed his fist through his chest. As he impaled his father, there was a spray of dirt that blinded him for a second. He pulled his hand out and it was covered in mud. What the? Minato smiled as the gaping wound in his chest began to close itself. It'll take a lot more than that to hurt me. He stated calmly, a smirk on his face. Have it your way. Naruto replied, backing away and raising a hand into the air. What the hell are you doing? Minato demanded. What you never were able to finish, father. Naruto said, and his eyes began showing the telltale sign of Yakai influence as a black slit appeared in his eyes with the three tomes spinning around it. Summoning up his chakra, Rasengan appeared in his hand, a swirling mass of energy forming a sphere before turning into a spinning blue and white ball of doom. Concentrating more wind chakra, 4 shuriken-like blades appeared emitting a high-pitched whine as the disc spun madly until it began to blur. What the hell? Rasen shuriken. Naruto bellowed and charged, holding the spinning bladed attack in front of him as he attempted to slam it into the Yondaime. The few said Hokage looked at it in horror and there was a golden flash and he dissipated instantaneously before Naruto could destroy him. Naruto released the attack and before he could move a kunai was placed at his throat. Gotcha. Minato uttered calmly. Is that so? Naruto replied, disappearing as quickly as the Hokage had. Reappearing a few feet away from the Hokage in a crackle of lightning, he smirked seeing Yondaime's frustrated face. How did you do that, disappear like that? I swore I'd master your infamous Hiraishin, and I couldn't, I suck at seals, I don't really have the time to sit and draw kanji all day. So I made a variation, and that became the true lightning god. I am the lightning god. Naruto declared. I don't get it. Minato replied. You require a kunai or a tag of some sort already laid out to summon yourself to that spot. That is its weakness, that as long as you see the kunai coming, you can successfully avoid it. You're fast, inhumanely so, it's no wonder you killed all those Iwa ninja, and yes, you can summon yourself instantaneously to a spot using the space-time continuum, but my Hiraishin is very different. Naruto spoke. How so? Minato asked. I don't need kunai, tags, or seals. Naruto spoke and tossed his black cloak to the side and pulled up his black shirt, revealing the Reaper Death Seal that sealed the Kyuubi away. Above that seal was another one, with a circle and 4 lines of kanji inside them. What is that? Minato replied. It's an intricate seal that Kakashi made for me with some help from Jiraiya. This seal is the foundation for the new Hiraishin. I am a lightning user with the ability to manipulate large amounts of elemental chakra. Well, I don't really understand the seal work and all, what this allows me to do is summon myself instantaneously through the use of lightning chakra. Wherever the chakra is dispersed, I can safely travel at the speed of light itself. Of course it only works when I can summon the lightning chakra, which takes a lot of focus and precision, but since I use so much lightning, wherever any of that energy disperses, I can follow it. Naruto explained smugly. Hence why you called it the true lightning god, Minato questioned, his brows furrowed. Yes, but my speed alone rivals yours, so there's no real reason to use it often. Naruto replied. You truly do not know who the Yondaime Hokage was. Minato replied laughing. Naruto winced. What's that supposed to mean? He asked. You're good, nowhere near as good as I am. I am a god, I may not control space and time like Uchiha Madara, but time is my domain. I am not rivaled by any mere, not even my own flesh and blood. I'm faster than time itself. Minato replied. Naruto raised an eyebrow and suddenly there was a bright sphere of swirling energy rammed into his stomach and the Yondaime Kyuubi humanoid was suddenly in front of him, yet still a few feet away at the same time. Fuck. Naruto screamed and the Rasengan grinded into him and blood shot everywhere as his stomach was torn to shreds. He was doomed. Kakashi was tired. Tazzing down Orochimaru to then start battling the Shodai and Nidai Hokage was no easy task. Well, his was an elite and probably cage level, but taking on the original Shodai and Nidai was a kick to the nuts. Sure, his 2-year stint in the Chamber of Time and Requirement had allowed him to train and become more powerful, he was probably on the same level as Itachi. While the Konoha Nukenin had the Manjukyu Sharingan, Kakashi definitely had a few tricks up his sleeve. Then again, he was probably the most fit to fight the 2 cages. Senju Hashirama was a wood element user, and Kakashi was pretty good with Kaiten Jutsus as well as Suiton, should the Shodame use Kaiten Jutsus. Senju Tobirama had just Suiton Jutsus, as his lightning sword had been stolen from him, and Kakashi, like Naruto, excelled in Raiten Jutsus. Watching the Sandaime wearily from the corner of his eyes, it had not taken long to disseminate Orochimaru's. It was hard, but Kakashi wasn't the copy nin for nothing. Using his Sharingan, he analyzed the Shodai and Nidai and realized exactly how they needed to defeat them. Of course this was his assumption, but to him fighting the Shodame and Nidaime wasn't as much of a difficulty as he expected. It was time and energy consuming but not overtly physically difficult. The Sandaime was waging war against Orochimaru and faring pretty well. But this was Orochimaru again, so it would be safe to assume that summoning up 3 Hokages was pretty costly to his Charka. The Shadai and Nidai should have been too strong for a, albeit powerful one like himself, but it seemed as if their chakra was limited. It appeared as if it was limited to Orochimaru himself, and while Orochimaru had a fairly giant amount of chakra, fighting while feeding 3 Hokage's chakra had to be taxing. Unless the wasn't fed by Orochimaru's chakra, but rather it was preset at a certain value. The Ito Tensei pulls a soul from death and is forcibly shoved into a faux body created by a human sacrifice. Then a seal shiki was placed into the head of the summoned ninja to control it, but somehow it manages to keep the ninja's personality and Kekkei Genkai as well as other traits. It's like one summoned the actual person, but there had to be a limit to the chakra it consumed, Kakashi mused. Normally Kakashi wouldn't stand a chance in hell against the Shadai and Nidaime, but because there was a cap to their power, he might be able to pull it off, supposing he had the chakra and grit for it. But honestly, he was more worried about the Sandaime. Fighting Orochimaru is never an easy task, let alone when you're old and far from the kami, no shinobi feared throughout the 5 great nations. Kakashi had to win. There was no other option. Sasuke and Yujito rushed forwards towards Gaara with such fluidity that Gaara and Hiashi Hyuga were caught unaware when Sasuke burst forward and kicked Gaara clean in the face before his sand could rise to protect him. Gaara was blown backwards from the force of the kick and was sent stumbling across the sand. "What's the status?" Sasuke stated, swiveling his eyes towards Hiashi. "He is Gaara, the Ichibi Jinchuriki." Hiashi replied. "So he's like Naruto?" Sasuke asked. "Yes, his demon allows him to summon sand subconsciously for defense and offense. It's a nearly perfect defense." Hiashi stated, his Byakugan still fixed on the now rising Gaara. "What's the status of the other teams?" Sasuke asked. "Currently Naruto-san is fighting." "No, it cannot be." Hiashi said, gasping. "What's wrong?" Yujito asked, her eyes steely, her jaw hardened. "It seems like Orochimaru used a forbidden Ito Tensei to summon up the 3 dead Hokages. Kakashi and the Sandaime are fighting off Orochimaru, the Shadaime, and the Nidaime. Naruto is fighting the Yondaime, but it appears they are at a standstill." Hiashi informed them. "That bastard Orochimaru went that far. Where's the backup squad?" Sasuke asked coolly. "They are engaged in a fight against a silver-haired medic nin and from the looks, and he's giving them quite the hard time. Sasuke, we'll split from here, I'll handle the Ichibi, and you go help out Kakashi. Hiashi, if you can, provide some more help to the backup team." Yujito ordered, and Hiashi and Sasuke nodded. Hiashi didn't obey out of rank because he was an elite of Konoha and outranked her, but she was A, and how better than to have her fight another Jinchuriki vice, and aging like himself. Hirabi halted to a stop, holding up a closed fist, signaling his squad to the same. In front of him was the Godime Hokage, Jiraiya of the Densetsu no Sannin, flanked by a group of. "Damn it." He cursed under his breath, preparing for the inevitable fight. "Stop in your tracks, I am the legendary Jiraiya, the Godime Hokage. One more step and I will kill you." Jiraiya threatened, a steely gaze on his face. "We're just here to talk." Kurabi replied, a smirk on his face. "I highly doubt that, tread carefully Kumo ninja. I could care less if you are the Raikage's brother B or if you're Kumo's son." Jiraiya stated, standing tall but warily. "We want Yujito back and we're willing to pay whatever price we have to for her." Kurabi responded. "Absolutely not. You violated the Shadai's treaty and the price you'll pay is knowing that Yujito is in our hands now." Jiraiya replied harshly. "I'll have to ask that you reconsider Hokage-sama." Kurabi said slowly. "The answer is final. Are you really ready to wage war against us over one Jinchuriki and sever the treaty we signed long ago?" Kurabi asked, his hand itching to reach for one of his swords. "No, but Konoha is ready to cut some Kumo heads off if you threaten war against us over one Jinchuriki. Let me make something clear for you, I am not the Sandaime, I am not patient, nor calm, nor forgiving. You already broke the treaty once and attacked us before to get a set of Hyuga's eyes, and last time an innocent man died to keep peace. This time, I will not allow that to happen. Tell your Raikage that I'm not the one he wants to test. The next time I catch Kumo shinobi in Konoha territory without official papers, we will not be kind. I am not giving you Yujito, now get out of my land." Jiraiya snapped, his face marred by a snarl. Hirabi looked at him calmly before letting out a small smile. "You will regret Thaishu Kage-sama." Turning around to face his subordinates, he motioned for them to go and they took back off into the trees. Jiraiya looked at her. "Tail them, make sure they leave, should they be aggressive, give me the signal." Jiraiya ordered. They disappeared in a flash and took off after them. Minato stood up, 4 tails of demonic yokai swirling behind him. He was standing there, basking in the victory of his arrogant son. He had defeated him easily, the stupid boy wasn't even worth his genetics. A glimmer caught his gaze and his eyes leveled on his son again as he watched Naruto's body shimmer and then disappear. "You didn't think it'd be that easy, father?" Naruto called out. Minato turned around and saw Naruto standing there harmless. "How?" he growled out angrily. Naruto pointed to his blood-red eyes. This is how. A good majority of this battle you've been under. Naruto stated. But I have the Kyuubi in me and I'm the Indama Hokage, you cannot ensnare an A, the Kyuubi's chakra would cancel it out and I know you weren't using the Mangekyou Sharingan. Minato stated. No, I wasn't. It's more about these particular eyes. Naruto said, sliding back into a fighting stance. You see, Uchiha Itachi gave me a certain pair of eyes that belonged to Uchiha Shisui. His prowess was ridiculous. This whole time you thought we were fighting I've had you ensnared and making you think we were fighting and letting you expend away your chakra. The best part of all of this is that I'm just getting started. Naruto stated, weaving a set of hand seals. So the whole lightning god was bullshit? Minato asked. Guilty to an extent. No, I'm not good enough to actually separate lightning chakra and travel through it, but I did master your Hiraishin. Naruto replied. Did you now? Minato asked. Naruto smirked and bit his thumb, wiping the blood across a seal that was drawn on his arm. There was a burst of smoke and out came a bunch of tri-pronged kunai. Naruto launched the kunai at Minato and disappeared in a flash of yellow, reappearing in front of him. Kaiten. Dikakyu no Jutsu. Naruto roared, blowing out a massive fireball directly at the dead Hokage. Minato disappeared before it could burn him, and as he reappeared his eyes widened in horror. In Naruto's hand was a shrieking ball of wind, a smaller version of his Rasen Shuriken. Rasengan. Naruto bellowed, ramming the sphere of violent wind chakra into Minato. Minato roared in pain, the sphere crashing into his stomach, needles of chakra going through his pores, his very cells. How had he caught him? He had used his Hiraishin to avoid the fireball, and as he jumped time and space Naruto had appeared and slammed the Rasengan into him. The force of it was enough to blow him backwards and crash into the sands. You see I'm strong, much stronger than you give me credit for. We knew Orochimaru had something up his sleeve, so for 2 years I trained every day and nothing but in preparation. I studied every element, developed my own, studied and came up with my own seals. Jiraiya gave me the blueprint to your Hiraishin, and I developed it further, becoming that much better with it. On top of that I have the Sharingan Dam developed to its fullest. You're probably wondering how I caught you. Naruto was interrupted as the Hokage stood up and disappeared in a flash, reappearing and kicking him across the chin and knocking him back a few feet. Kid, you're too arrogant and you talk too much. Minato replied, lowering his right hand to the wound and watching in satisfaction as red chakra came out and healed it instantly. Am I? Naruto reappeared over the Hokage's head and brought his fist down crashing down on his skull. The Hokage shrugged off the blow and jumped away from him, blowing up sand as he came down. You might be strong. But I'm stronger. Minato called out. Naruto reached down deep inside and his chakra flared up, swirling around him in a bluish aura. His hair spiked outwards as electricity surrounded him. Let's test that theory. Naruto boasted, reappearing before the Yondaime once again and ramming his hand through the Hokage's chest with a Chidori. Blood and bones bursted out of the Hokage's back and Naruto tossed him into the air and then threw a kunai above him, disappearing in a flash. Twin Chidori. Naruto cried out, appearing above the Hokage. Minato's eyes widened and Naruto rammed the second Chidori through his face. The Yondaime's face exploded in a grisly shower of blood, bone, muscle, and brain fragments landing on the sand with a resounding thump. Naruto stood up, gasping for air. He had exhausted a good bit of chakra in this fight, between the massive that he had placed over the Hokage to the actual physical fight itself. He had enough to probably finish the fight, but he would have to end it soon. You didn't think it'd be that easy. Did you? A voice interrupted his thoughts. Looking over at his fused father, his eyes widened. Minato stood up, muscles regrouping on his face as flesh began to cover over the muscle, and his face was regenerated. What the? Naruto growled out in surprise. You arrogant monkey. Minato snapped, his face turning into a snarl. Do you think you can best me? I am the best of your father and the best of the Kyuubi in one human body, and you think some teenage boy who just left puberty can defeat me? Minato roared, the powerful chakra of the Kyuubi surging forth again, enveloping him in a thick dark red shroud. Give me your best shot. Naruto called out confidently, holding out his right hand. Minato did the same. They say when two powerful warriors collide in the heat of battle, they can read each other's thoughts. The two certainly knew that it was going to come down to this final attack. Naruto didn't have enough for his Rasen Shuriken and certainly not enough for the Raiden Kiji no Rasengan, but he had one last card up his sleeve. Digging deep into his inner self, he reached the cage that held the Kyuubi and began siphoning chakra, not enough to overwhelm him and put him in the state he was in earlier, but enough to charge up this last attack. Minato began flaring up his chakra and swirls of red lights began to form on his outstretched hand. The red chakra formed a sphere and began to rotate as more and more demonic chakra filled it up until it was large enough to be bigger than his own body. Naruto smirked, summoning up chakra to his own hand, but instead of red lights, it was a dark blue, a combination of Naruto and the Kyuubi's chakra, completely mixed into an almost purple tone. Placing all his chakra into the last attack, it grew to a massive sphere, with chakra spinning violently on the inside of the sphere, rotating internally in all directions. Rasengan. Minato Namikaze roared, flying towards his child with an inconceivable speed that made him the famous Kiroi Senko. Joedama Rasengan. Naruto bellowed, rushing towards the Hokage. It seemed like time had almost froze, the two combatants in mid-air, gargantuan spheres of chakra spinning uncontrollably in their hands. Red eyes with black slits stared into the angry shurikens buried into the sea of red, fangs and teeth bared. Blonde locks of hair spiked in every which way. Minato moved faster than Naruto did, and he was about to unleash his attack when he felt the most pain he ever felt in his life. He screamed. Naruto slammed the Choudama Rasengan into the dead Yondaime and watched as it tore into him, blood spraying everywhere. How? Minato asked weakly as he was blown away from the sheer destructive force. I added a tag on you earlier, I don't need the kunai to use the Hiraishin, just as you were about to unleash your attack, I moved in when you let your guard up and you up. Naruto said cockily. You insignificant child. Minato cried out weakly, falling backwards. I'm not a child. Naruto replied. Yes, you are. Minato responded, bursting into smoke. Page Bunshin. Naruto thought. Minato appeared in front of him, fingers glowing with kanji inscribed on each digit. Minato slammed his fingers into Naruto's stomach where the seal lay dormant at. Naruto screamed in pain and he could feel something being ripped out of him. He screamed harder than he ever had in his life. The pain was blinding, suffocating, like every cell in his body was lit with fire. Looking at his father, he saw him start to disintegrate. I'm sorry Naruto, I failed you. The Yondaime exclaimed, then turned to ash. I'm free. A voice whispered and Naruto turned his head and gasped at the sight. It was him. But not. There was a figure standing in front of him that looked exactly just like he did, even wearing the same outfit with a few differences. Instead of blonde hair, it was orange-red in color. Instead of neon green eyes, they were malevolent red with narrow black slits. Whiskers marred the face of the person in front of him, just like the ones he had. Who are you? Naruto managed to say weakly. I am you. But I am the Kyuubi no Kitsune, ruler of this world, and I am the last person in this world you want to piss off, and I am very pissed off at you Naruto. So I will spare you today, but I will kill all your friends, and I'm going to kill you Jito, Kakashi, and Sandaime. There's nothing you can do to stop me, boy. No, please don't hurt them. Naruto begged, trying to stand up on his feet. I told you not to piss me off, that I would be free from that cage one day, and when I did come out I was going to make your life hell. You will know pain, you will know suffering, and you will know death by the time I'm done with you Naruto-chan. Kyuubi said, a sinister smile on his face. Giving Naruto a chop on the neck, he watched in satisfaction as the boy passed out. I'm free. I'm free. Kyuubi roared in joy. Orochimaru was stranded. Kabuto was nowhere to be found, probably in the middle of his own battle against the infuriating Konoha ninja. At first he had been holding his own, while he was not as youthful as he once had been, his immortality had rejuvenated him, and the aging Kami no Shinobi Sarutobi Hiruzen had been no easy task. But ultimately he knew he could defeat him. Then Sharingan no Kakashi had shown up, evening out the fight as he took on the Shodaime and Nidaime, distracting them long enough for the Sandaime to wound Orochimaru several times. Kakashi was the ultimate ninja, he had mastered several elements and used them effectively against a Hokage. Then Uchiha Sasuke showed up and now the fight is all but over. Orochimaru was tired, several wounded, and running low on chakra. The Edo Tensei resurrection drained him as well as the fight. Sasuke had used his Amaterasu and burned the Hokages until they were nothing more than ash, and all three combatants had pressed on Orochimaru. Sandaime slid into an offensive stance, contemplating his next couple moves. He knew the only way he could take out Orochimaru was to use the Reaper Death Seal and seal him away, but the price was steep, he would have to offer up his own soul to the Reaper. But he couldn't be afraid, he was an old man, and he had lived a long, fulfilling life. It was time to pass down the will of fire to the younger generation. He had already passed down the mantle of Hokage to his student Jiraiya, who was the most capable out of all of his students, and his favored one after Orochimaru had betrayed him. Tsunade was nowhere to be found, hiding out and putting herself into debt everywhere she went. Before any of them could move, there was a rush of sand, billowing all around them and getting in their face, and there stood a figure dressed up like Naruto was earlier. It looked identical to him, only different. Instead of Naruto's blonde, spiky locks the person had orange-red hair, with feral red eyes with narrow slits. Who are you? Sandaime managed to ask. Don't you recognize me as an old friend? I am the Kyuubi no Kitsune, ruler of this earth, strongest of all. Kyuubi spoke levelly. How did you get out? Kakashi asked, reaching down for his kunai. Orochimaru here resurrected the Indama Hokage who had sealed my Yang chakra into him. My consciousness managed to overpower him in battle, and I used Yondames to open the seal to Naruto's seal as Naruto destroyed Minato's body. The Yang chakra was released, and I was out of my cage and managed to tear out and hang on to the Yang chakra, but it came at a price. I had to leave the Yin chakra inside Naruto, but I managed to become free again in this form. I kind of like it. Kyuubi said, flexing his muscles. It can't be. Where's Naruto? Sasuke demanded, activating his Mangekyou Sharingan. I'm so scared of Sasuke. I like those eyes almost as hateful as your founder Uchiha Madara. Naruto is alive for now, but I will kill him, slowly and painfully for his arrogance and for not respecting me as he should have. The best part of it all is that I'm an exact duplicate of Naruto, all his techniques are stored here. Kyuubi pointed at his skull. All that knowledge, down to his very genetics. See, your Sharingan doesn't scare me, Sasuke. I have my own. Kyuubi continued and flared up his chakra, and his eyes adopted the look of the famed, looking almost exactly like the regular Sharingan with slits going down the middle. What do you want? Kakashi demanded, body tense and ready to move. I want to kill you all, and then I'm going to take over the world. I'm going to destroy the Akatsuki and become the cage of all 5 nations. Millions will die, daimyos will be slaughtered, but there will be peace, and the world will bow down to me, and only me. Naruto will die and I will form my own army to use as weapons and nothing, and no one can stop me. All of you are insignificant, your life is meaningless, you have no purpose, no reason to exist in this prison you call life, but I will give you one. You will all serve me. You will worship me, love me, and I will be your god. That sounds crazy. Sasuke deadpanned. Kyuubi merely smirked. Kakashi moved, blurring through his Shunshin and appearing in front of Kyuubi, lightning howling in his hand. Kyuubi didn't move, and his arm suddenly whipped out and grabbed Kakashi's wrist. This is how you thank me for the gift I gave you, puny little Kyuubi asked, snapping Kakashi's wrist effortlessly. Kakashi cried out in pain and he stared into the cold, calculating Sharingan of the Kyuubi. Sasuke reacted and leaped in the air, landing a swift kick across Kyuubi's face. The Kyuubi didn't even flinch and shrugged the blow off as if it were nothing. Kicking Kakashi in his chest and knocking him backwards, he swung under Sasuke's next kick and cut Sasuke with an uppercut. Ryuken. Lightning blasted out of Kyuubi's fist and blood sprayed everywhere as Sasuke's mouth busted open and his skin peeled on his face from the sheer current of electricity. Before Orochimaru could even move, Kyuubi advanced upon him. One hand shot out and grabbed Orochimaru by his throat. Squeezing tightly, he cut off all circulation from Orochimaru's body. I should thank you for unknowingly giving me the opportunity to come back. Do not think for 1 second I have forgotten your slights against Orochimaru, I didn't. I'm going to kill you, but for setting me free, I'll make it painless and fast. Kyuubi boasted, squeezing even harder around Orochimaru's throat. Rearing his head back, lights of white and black chakra began to amass in his mouth, forming small bubbles of chakra. Orochimaru tried to move, but it was to no avail, the Kyuubi was not letting him go. Noticing his struggles, the Kyuubi grabbed his right arm using his free hand and ripped it clean off, blood and skin spraying everywhere. Grabbing his left one, he tore that clean off as well, blood landing on his face and dripping down his cheeks. Orochimaru tried to scream, but all that came out was a bubbly gurgle. Kyuubi had ripped his arms clean off to prevent him from using any substitution to get away from the next attack. Releasing Orochimaru, he brought his head forth and unleashed a tail beast bomb. A massive surge of chakra flooded from his mouth, encompassing Orochimaru entirely drowning out his screams. Orochimaru was dead. Turning around to face the Konoha ninja, the Kyuubi spoke with a sinister smile. Consider yourselves lucky. I'm going to let you live for now. The previous fight took a lot of energy out of me, but I will come back and I will destroy you all. Live life like there's no tomorrow, because there isn't going to be one, and that I can promise you. Sasuke and Kakashi were still reeling from Kyuubi's previous attacks. Sarutobi stepped forward. Do you honestly think we're going to let you walk away alive? He said, sliding into his stance and pulling out his bow staff. I was hoping you'd say that. The Kyuubi replied, disappearing in a flash of red and black and appearing behind the Sandaime Hokage. Before Sarutobi Hiruzen could even turn around, Kyuubi snapped his neck, letting his body fall to the ground, his body an empty carcass, motionless and without life. Sasuke's eyes widened and he let out a snarl. You bastard. Trying to get up, face still raw in certain areas, he was about to attack until Kakashi grabbed his arm. Stop, live to fight another day. He will kill us, train, become stronger and hope that when he comes back, you'll be strong enough then. Kakashi ordered, a lone tear dripping down his left eye. Losing the Sandaime is hard enough, do you want Naruto to lose you too? Good boy, Kakashi. Sasuke, it was good seeing you, until next time. Jana. Kyuubi said jovially, before walking away from them. Sasuke fell to his knees and cradled the fallen Hokage's head to his chest. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Even after these 2 years, we still weren't strong enough, I'm never strong enough. Kakashi placed a hand on the teen's shoulder. Sasuke, this is not your burden to carry. We trained for 2 long years preparing for the Akatsuki, we had no idea we were going to come up against a Kyuubi, how could we have known, and 2 years would never be enough to prepare for something like that. I don't think you can prepare for a beast like that. Trust me, I would love to kill him and avenge my sensei, but I'm not strong enough to hurt Kyuubi, let alone kill it. Kakashi said as calmly as possible. His mind was in turmoil. He hadn't been able to save the Sandaime, he hadn't been able to protect Naruto, and the seal was broken, ripped open by none other than a dead Minato Namikaze himself. The Kyuubi had been set free and had left half his power still inside Naruto, but without the malevolent consciousness haunting him and taunting him behind the seal. What did that even mean for Naruto? Or the Akatsuki? In the lands formerly known as Whirlpool Country, many had been laid to rest. It was the site of a massive burial ground of Yuzukage shinobi who had died, slain by enemy shinobi. But it wasn't just the burial site for Yuzugakure ninja. In the middle of the site were 2 graves, which officially didn't exist. It was the site where they had buried Yondaime and his wife after the Kyuubi had cost them both their lives. Minato had requested to be buried there with his wife, it was her homeland, and it was where he met her at. To the people of Konoha, Minato was buried with the rest of the Hokages in Hokage Mountain, as normal procedures dictated. The Shodaime and the Nidaime were buried there. Sarutobi would be buried there as well. But Jiraiya had brought his student's body here to the land of Whirlpool Country to rest in peace. Lightning crackled and struck Yondaime's grave. The deal has been broken. The hand burst through the grave. 2 weeks later, on Hagakure Hospital, Naruto woke up. Eyes bleary from all the sunlight streaming through the room, he shut them quickly and yawned loudly. He felt so tired. You're awake. A soft feminine voice spoke. He instantly recognized it. Vegito. Naruto called out warily. Opening his eyes again, he spotted her sitting in a chair, hands folded on her lap. She got up and walked over to him, standing next to his bed. Hey baby. She replied, bending low to kiss him on the forehead softly. What happened? Naruto asked tentatively. You've been in a coma for 2 weeks. I didn't think you were going to get up, you had me scared. Yujito admitted, a sad look on her face. What do you remember? She asked. Everything. I remember fighting my dad, but he wasn't at the same time. He was fused with the half of the Kyuubi's chakra he took when died. He opened the seal and died and Kyuubi came out and told me he was going to kill all of you and then I blacked out. Naruto said. Vegito knew she was going to have to be the bearer of bad news. Taking a deep breath, she reached over and clasped one of his hands into hers. After they blacked out, Kakashi and Sasuke took out the Shodai and Nidaime Hokages and were about to defeat Orochimaru when the Kyuubi showed up. He explained to them how he got out and how he was a clone of you to an extent and he killed Orochimaru easily. He offered to spare the Sandaime, Sasuke, and Kakashi, but the Sandaime was going to attack and the Kyuubi snapped his neck and killed him. Naruto gasped and tears sprung to his eyes. He what? He replied, choking back a sob. Shaking with rage, his atrophied muscles wouldn't let him stand up. Not the Sandaime, please. He sobbed out and she hugged him and let him cry onto her chest. I'm so sorry Naruto, I was fighting Gaara and couldn't make it in time. I had just defeated him and by the time I got there it was too late. She said sadly, tears falling down her cheeks. It's not your fault, it's mine. Naruto croaked out, his voice heavy with guilt. It's not your fault Naruto. Yujito pleaded and Naruto pulled away from her embrace, a self-deprecating look on his face. It is. I got cocky in the fight against Yondaime. My arrogance cost Sandaime's life. If I had never dropped my guard, the Kyuubi would still have been sealed. I'm going to kill him. If it's the last thing I do, I swear to Kami I'm going to kill Kyuubi. For good. Naruto swore. Naruto you can't blame yourself and you can't shoulder that burden alone. You fought bravely against your father, the Yellow Flash and you won, there was no way you could have known that this would happen. Yujito replied. Naruto, you're awake, thank God. Jiraiya called out walking into the room. Dadim-sama. Naruto responded, his voice sounding haunted. Naruto, don't be so hard on yourself over the Sandaime. He walked into Sunagakure knowing he was going to die, it was in his plans to do so, to die for you. Don't make his sacrifice in vain. Jiraiya said gently. It won't. You're going to train me and one day I will kill the Kyuubi, that's the promise of a lifetime. Naruto vowed. Good to hear. We managed to intercept the Kumo team and send them back with their tails tucked between their legs, so all in all this double mission was a success. Your team stopped the Akatsuki and we stopped Kumo from entering Konoha. Jiraiya replied. Has anything important happened in the last 2 weeks since I've been gone? Naruto asked. Yes, we have discovered a new enemy within Konoha's walls. One that must be stopped, but carefully because it is so deep-rooted within our own government that we cannot outright declare war. Keep your head on a swivel, Naruto, you're one of their targets. Especially now. Especially now? Naruto echoed. I might have admitted to the populace that you are the son of Yondaime. The people of Konoha see the wrongs of their ways in how they treated you, and now they see you as a hero, at least most of them do. But this enemy is trying to bloody your name and set you up for failure, be careful, Naruto. Stop by and see me when you get out. Jiraiya ordered and disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Naruto had a somber look, contemplating everything he was just told. The people knew of his heritage now, and now they wanted to see him as a hero, but only because of Minato's blood going through his veins. He was upset, visibly so. But he didn't have time to waste on whether he was popular or not within Konoha, frankly he didn't care. They hadn't given it when it mattered, so he wasn't going to give it now. There was an enemy within Konoha's walls, the Kyuubi was loose and the Akatsuki was still out there. He had his work cut out for him. Closing his eyes, he felt Yujito's lips graze his. He inhaled her scent, relished the taste of her mouth as he deepened the kiss, his arms clutched at her and brought her into his bed. I love you. He said, pulling away from her for a second. I love you too. She replied with a smile. Forever? Naruto asked, a nervous look on his face. Yujito kissed him on the lips again. Forever. He strolled into his brother's office. He knew the Raikage was going to be pissed that it had taken him so long to get back, but he had made a few pit stops and enjoyed the journey back to Kumogakure. All he ever did was train and go on missions, it was nice to have a little bit of time to himself. Why did it take you 2 weeks to get back, damn it? The Raikage demanded. Chill out bro, I've got good news for you. Hachibi replied. Sit down then, let's talk. The Raikage offered and pulled out 2 saucers and filled them up with sake that he kept hidden in his drawers. Obliging his older brother, B sat down in his chair. Taking a saucer for himself, he drank a good bit before setting it down, relishing the slow burn as the rice wine went down his throat. So tell me about this good news. The Raikage demanded impatiently. Konoha refused our offer to return Yujito. They believe she is one of their own, hell she believes she is one of their own. I'm almost surprised they didn't find the seal on her. B replied. I had a master put it on her, they won't find it. That is good news to hear. I had to gather so much intel to find out exactly where Uzumaki-sen was going to be and place Yujito in his direct path for them to meet. Her true mission of course is being hidden from her by the seal until it's time, and for now we can relax until it's time to destroy Konoha from the inside out, and then we'll finish the job and be the #1 nation out of the Great Five, and Konoha will be nothing but ashes. Raikage said laughing. Yes, I didn't quite count on her to actually fall in love with him or him as hard as they did. The worst part is she doesn't even know, she honestly believes she defected until it's time for us to pull the plug on that false reality. B responded with a smirk. The Raikage nodded. Yes, consider the mission Sleeper Cell a success. We will rule the world and we will burn Konoha down to the ground and they will pay for what they did to us. The 2 brothers smiled and continued celebrating. Naruto walked towards the memorial stone, knowing full well his sensei Kakashi would be there. Since he had known the ninja, he had always spent an unusual amount of time at the memorial, praying to his dead comrades and friends. He had planned on coming here too, to say goodbye to his sandaime, a man who was like a grandfather to him. He remembered when he was attacked at 9 and lost his eyesight. Life had been so hopeless for him then, he hadn't wanted to live. But he had lived angrily, hurting those who hurt him. Then he had met Sasuke, and Sasuke became a brother to him, he had formed his first bond. It was crazy how happy a bond to someone could make you. To feel like you're not alone anymore. To know someone cares for you. Then he had met Kakashi who had become an older brother to him, almost a father figure to an extent. He had looked up to him and realized he wanted to be a lot like him. Then he had bonded with Yujito, fallen in love with her, and it wasn't the connection that formed that day, he had known as soon as he met her that he wanted her. Watching her fight, bantering with her, he had forgotten about what little he cared for Ino and eventually came to love Yujito, a love stronger than anything he had ever known. The bond that couldn't be broken. He knew she would never hurt him. Arriving at the memorial shrine he also noticed Sasuke there. He hadn't seen him either since he left the hospital and he approached his sensei and comrade. Silently, he knelt down next to them and prayed and said his last goodbyes to the sandaime. No words were exchanged between the 3. They knew each other enough to the point where speaking was mute. As sad as Naruto was, he was happy. His life was looking up. He had friends, he had bonds, he had freed his father from Orochimaru and defeated key members of the Akatsuki. He was no longer alone. He sobbed, but these were no longer sad tears, they were happy ones. For the first time he could recall, he was genuinely happy. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoy it. If you want to like these awesome movies, turn on that bell notification. Like, subscribe and comment down below. And also check out the others videos I have created and enjoyed it. See you guys next video.